And we're back. Sorry about that, you guys. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. We're just gonna roll with it. Welcome back. Thank you, guys. Oh, thank you, Aura. Thanks for continuing the live, Missy. These technical problems must be stressful. I mean, you roll with it. Thank you, though. Missy, how long were you in no contact with your SP when you were manifesting him for the second time? Good question. How long were we in no contact for? I want to say a couple of months, thereabouts. I don't remember the exact date that, and I initiated the no contact. I don't remember the exact date, but I want to say it was a couple months because I really needed that time to focus on me. I really wanted that time to not continue to be triggered by the 3D. Not to say that you have to go no contact or anything like that. This was just my personal experience and what really helped me. And in that time, I did a lot of revision. I did a lot of just reshaping the conception I had of self, namely my insecurities, my fears, my doubts, my triggers, the things that I no longer wanted to embody and identify with. Yeah. How do you maintain your manifestation once it shows up in the 3D? When your SP came back in the final time in 3D, was it smooth sailing or did you have to work through any bumps? Good question. And the entire purpose of my channel is maintaining that state, maintaining that desired state of consciousness, maintaining the manifestation, the 3D outcome that we want. I don't know if you've seen my SP story video or not, but I did manifest him back the first time. I manifested him twice. The first time, he went away again, of course, because I still had a lot of the fears and doubts and insecurities that created all the problems in the first place. So I'm not just about how to get things in the 3D. That's not my MO. That's not my MO. This is about maintaining that new state of consciousness. This is about actually changing the conception of self. Yeah. So everything on my channel is sort of emphasized and pointing to that. But the things that I did, I talked about it in my SP video, not into great detail, but I have also made another video fairly recently about some of the things that I did, like more of the practical steps and applications that I did. I wish I could remember the name of that video. Damn it. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. It is a fairly recent one. But so if you look, within the last 10 videos that I did, it should be in there. Was it smooth sailing, or did we have to work through things? It was pretty smooth sailing, actually, because I no longer felt fear. I no longer felt like the questioning or the doubts in myself. I felt calm. I felt confident, like genuinely so. Now, like, do we get into little ticks here and there because we're like one of us is having a bad day? Of course, of course. But nothing like it used to be. Night and day what it used to be. Oh my God, night and day. Mina, hi from Suwanee, Georgia. Awesome. I hope you're having a good time. And we're back. We are back. Hey, Missy, sometimes I do not have any plans, so I get bored. When this happens, I find myself getting impatient and wishing SP were here. What should I do? Good question. Good question. And I have made a video recently, like 1 or 2 videos back, about what to do if we feel like we're waiting for a desire. I would check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. But basically, the feeling of impatience is just indication, like it's just feedback for us that we want to go back to that end. We want to go back to that wish fulfilled in imagination. That perhaps we've been spending too much time out here in the 3D, and it's been too long since we've been back in here. So you use that as feedback that you want to get yourself back to that state of already being, already having. Yeah. Hey, Missy, I'm manifesting the easy and profitable sale of my family home, but there's been some resistance from a family member, even though they need that outcome too. Any suggestions? Thank you. Good question. Resistance from a family member. Um, oh, just checking to make sure my settings aren't going all tweaky on me. 2 seconds. Settings still okay, you guys? We're good? Okay, just checking, just checking. So, noticing some resistance with a family member, I would be focusing on revision. I would be focusing on maintaining that desired interaction in imagination. So, however you would want to be interacting, like whatever you would want this person to be showing up as, that's what I would be focusing on in imagination. If you're noticing that there's stress and anxiousness stemming from how this person is showing up, that's where I'd be placing my focus. That and of course the sale of the home, right? Like what would imply that you had, everything was smooth sailing, the house was sold, you got it for exactly the price that you wanted or more. Like what would be something like, would you go have a celebratory dinner? Would you be having phone calls, telling people the good news? But yeah, I would be focused on those 2 things, just revising the interactions you've had with this person and going to that end where everything is already finished, everything is already sold, and you've got exactly the number or more than you desire to see. Will I do more YouTube shorts? Yes, yes, I will. Yes, I will. I have a ton that I just need to upload, and I should do that. Oh, oh, thank you, Danielle. Thank you. Hi, Missy. I know I'm on the bridge and start to notice changes in SP's behavior. Any tips on how to stay the course while the 3D conforms and how not to doubt? Yes. Continuing to go back to imagination. It is a practice. We have to remember how incredibly conditioned we are to 3D circumstance. And we're talking decades of conditioning, the opposite conditioning of what the law teaches. So it is going to be subconscious nature to check the 3D, to revert back to the 3D. So we do have to be deliberate and conscious about going back within. Now, of course, we don't wanna do that through force. We don't wanna exert a whole lot of mental willpower into imagining, but we do wanna make sure that we are practicing with retreating the attention from the 3D, like taking the attention from out here and just going within. And we wanna do that until that becomes a lot more second nature to us, uh, which again, it is some practice. It is some practice because this is a really, really easy and common thing that happens. As soon as we start to see some kind of movement, as soon as we perceive something happening out here, it's like our attention immediately locks into out here. So if we find ourselves doing that, we wanna catch ourselves and we want to go back. We wanna continue going back. Yeah. It is a practice, but and with the not doubting how not to doubt, continue to build your faith, continue to build your trust in the law. Prove to yourself that the law is real. And that's something that we want to make sure that we're doing no matter what we're trying to manifest. We wanna make sure that we are building trust in this. That's going to get rid of double-mindedness, that's gonna make it so that we can completely stand in place regardless of the 3D so that we're not so easily moved by 3D circumstances. Yeah, yeah. And it's really just remembering that out here is all because of in here. Like, once we have that firmly set, we're not gonna look to the 3D for confirmation again. Missy, what's your opinion about forgetting? Neville spoke about it in lecture about the Sabbath. Good question. So, forgetting is revision, basically. When Neville refers to forgiveness, when he refers to forgetting, when he refers to repentance, he's essentially talking about revision. Yeah. So that's going back and imagining different outcomes for things that were not ideal until it no longer feels like the old memory is what happened. It's going to feel like the new memory is what happened. Oh, I'm sorry, AMM2 Media. I think I'm going through a purge of negative energy. For the past few days, I have felt a whole range of emotions and have been physically sick to the point where I could not work last week. Oh, boo. I'm sorry. And I mean, it could be a lot of stuff coming up. If there have things been suppressed, it could also be, from what you're describing, it could be a bit of backlash, a bit of ego backlash. If you haven't seen the video about ego backlash, I would check it out. But that tends to occur after we've made some like considerable progress. It'll it usually shows up unannounced and after we've made like significant change, or it feels like we've been doing really good. Uh, it's normal. It's a defense mechanism. It sucks, but you're absolutely going to get to the other side of this. And take care of yourself right now. Let me see. How can we help ourselves to relax so that we allow ourselves to receive our desire? Good question. Good question. Um, I forget the name of the video that I came out with. There was a fairly recent video that I made talking about the importance of relaxation. Um, If we're feeling tense, if we're feeling anxious, if we're feeling stressed, we wanna first and foremost help ourself get to a more relaxed state. So, some of the most effective ways that I've found, that I've used is, of course, breathing exercises, slow, deep breaths from the diaphragm, exhale for longer than you inhale. There's many different types of breathwork activities that you can do. EFT tapping has been really helpful. Body scanning, going into meditation and literally scanning the body, noting any areas of tension and deliberately relaxing that area of the body, that kind of thing. But probably the best go-to, the most effective one that we can do literally anywhere is breathing exercises. And that's going to have a significant physiological response because it's essentially sending signals to the brain that we're not in danger and we can go ahead and shut off that fight or flight response. Um, it's fascinating how the nervous system ties so much into this, in the physiology behind manifestation and all of that. I really should make a video talking in more detail about that. But yeah, anything like that or any activity that you find relaxing normally, like if there's certain music that you can turn to that's helped you relax in the past, taking a bath, having a moment of silence, going for a walk, whatever that is. Yeah. But I think universally, breath work is game changing. Oh, thank you, Young. Let me see. I haven't manifested a text or call from my former coworker, and I truly believed. I visualized her texting me, and sadly, nothing is manifested. And I know there's always movement. So what gives? Good question. And I take it that this is for the purposes of testing the law. And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the most popular ways that we learn to test the law is through so-called smaller things, imagining things that we don't have a whole lot of weight or attachment to, for the purpose of building trust. Uh, Again, correct me if I'm wrong on that. One reason I get hesitant sometimes to recommend that route is because if we are looking for the manifestation, if we continue to observe that they haven't called us or they haven't reached out to us, what state is that coming from? Like, what state are we occupying when that comes up? They haven't called, they haven't called, they haven't called. Well, what are we going to continue to manifest from that place? Basically, if we're going to test the law using these small things, we have to be able to drop it. Like, set it, forget it, because it's going to show up when you are not thinking about it. It's going to show up when you are not looking for it. It's going to show up when you are not observing the absence of it. So, a lot of times, this is not uncommon. Like, we start getting frustrated because, well, why hasn't this thing happened yet? Because of what we're bringing into awareness and because we're waiting and looking for it to happen. Yeah. What happens when your self concept is not in harmony with the concept of others you hold. Which one wins? Your self concept is not in harmony with the concept of others you hold. If I'm understanding the question correctly, Glee, you can have certain beliefs and assumptions about yourself. Like you can have these beliefs that you have about you, opposite of what you believe of other people. Like our self concept is the sum total of the beliefs and assumptions about ourselves, about other people, the world at large, and how it works. Um, which one wins? Well, they're all going to win. Mm, oh, I think I understand. Like if somebody holds a different conception of you than you have of yourself, which one's going to win? I mean, it's going to be the conception you have about you. Because what we assume that other people assume about us is still our assumption. I know that's a mouthful, but do you see how it all comes back to our assumptions? There are assumptions. Even if we perceive it as somebody else's assumption, it's still what we are assuming, they're assuming about us. So, whichever one we believe more strongly, the dominant one's going to win. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. I hope I understood the question correctly. Bye, Yara. Thank you for being here. You are such a lovely soul. Do you have a Facebook group? I do. I do have a Facebook group. If you check down in the description box, the links are down below. Do you think VR can help with visualization? I mean, it certainly can. If it feels like more helpful to be immersed in that way, it can. And looking at photos, looking at videos, I mean, absorbing as much of the detail as we can, um, and then going into imagination, it can be super helpful. Yeah. Hey, Missy, thank you for your videos. My question is, I've been manifesting my ex back for 3 months now, doing all the gardening work, going back within and focusing on myself. What am I doing wrong? Well, I mean, number one, I don't know if necessarily this is where the hardest part of all of this, bar none, is the 3D and checking the 3D and noting the 3D and looking for things to happen in the 3D. I would say in this case, take the attention off of the 3D. Redirect. Because the more that we are looking for something implies you don't have it. It implies you are not that person that you desire to be. And I know, again, with how conditioned we are to 3D, this is where the bulk of the practice comes in. So truly focusing on changing your conception of self from the place of wanting to feel better, wanting to be better, wanting to no longer have those anxieties and doubts and fears. That is the aim. That is what we're doing here. If we're doing this just for the sheer thing of getting the thing in the 3D, we're going to be constantly needing to check the 3D. So the video that I came out with 1 or 2 videos back, I forget the title, but the caption says F the 3D. I would watch that one. Yeah. Let me see where my spot was. But how can I fight my own thoughts of years going by and nothing will change? Oh, I mean, number one, don't fight your thoughts. Don't fight your thoughts. That's going to get exhausting really quickly. But the more that you are going within, the more that you are imagining, the more that you are immersing yourself in those imaginal acts, the thoughts are going to naturally start to change. As your self-conception changes, your thoughts will change, your reactions will change. Like you will change. That's the whole point. You're not going to be battling those thoughts anymore. That's the whole point. And that's why I say all the time, the objective here is the change in self, not the change in the 3D, because the change in self is going to naturally and without any effort reflect in 3D. We're not going to have to do anything to change that. Once we change, the reflection is going to change because it's a mirror. Yeah. Hi, Missy. How does time work according to the law of assumption? Is it an illusion? What kind of illusion? Good question. Yes. Short answer is yes. It is an illusion. It's a construct. It's not real. How does it work according to the law? The, the law states that everything is finished. Creation is already finished. All outcomes already exist for the past, present, future, right? So if everything already exists now, then how can that also be a thing with linear time? Like it can't both be true. So we are in every single moment selecting a state, selecting a reality, for lack of better words, depending on the beliefs and assumptions we hold, depending on what we've been imagining, what's being impressed subconsciously. That's determining what state we occupy. Um, yeah, yeah. We have the illusion of time because without it, we couldn't have a human experience, basically, in so many words. Oh, oh, Yanka, I'm so sorry. We have a bad old story. I have manifested SP back, but we have never met. He always says he loves me, but always lies to me, adds me in different ways, and does not give me promises. This makes me feel very sad and even hates him. Every time a 3D situation occurs, I struggle. Do you have any good suggestions? I've never found the state of doing sats. So sad. Thank you. So if sats has been difficult for you, um, I would go with whatever form of imagining resonates the most. Again, this shouldn't be a struggle. This shouldn't be us trying to work hard at imagine. It shouldn't feel like there's mental strain when we are imagining. So if we're having difficulties with sats, we can use a different way of imagining. There's inner conversations, hearing the conversations. There's affirmations. There's different things that we can do to approach this. So maybe first explore and see what comes most naturally to you as far as imagining goes. Because again, to be 1,000% clear, we don't have to do sats to manifest. That's not a prerequisite to say. There's many different ways that we imagine, but we want to play around and see what comes most naturally to us, because we want to begin to change the way that we are perceiving this person. We want to begin to imagine in a way that feels more natural so that you can start to imagine that new version of him. where he is showing up for you, where he is being loving and kind, where he is being supportive, where you do feel prioritized. That's what we want to experience in imagination. And we want to be going there and conditioning and saturating ourselves until it starts to feel normal to us, until it starts to feel natural for us, until that becomes more of the subconscious and dominant state. So that's really, and I know, again, with the damn 3D, I get it. If you need to retreat from the 3D, if you need to take a break and give yourself some space to just be at peace, then you can do that. I know there's a huge fear that we have to take the attention away from the 3D or anything like that. We become fearful that we're going to lose them, that we're going to, that they're just going to go away. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. If you need some time to take care of you, because here's the thing, you're always manifesting. You can always go to that state of consciousness. That state where you two are together is always going to exist. It's never going anywhere. It's never going anywhere. So if you feel like this is taking a toll on you and your mental health, first focus on getting yourself to a place that feels better, a place that feels like more of a solid foundation. And then experiment, play around with different ways of imagining, and use whatever comes most naturally to you. That doesn't feel like a struggle or a strain. Yeah, as Neville would say, you don't have to burst a blood vessel trying to imagine. Just my 2 cents. I think that's my thing, 3D conditioning. I need a 4D reality check. Yep. Yep. 95% of the time, we are on autopilot. We are just doing things based on our old beliefs, our old assumptions, our habits. We are creatures of habit as humans. So naturally, we're going to be like, as a reflex, we're going to do things and react in certain ways. And that's normal. That's normal. This is just us, yeah, checking ourselves. This is us like consciously and deliberately catching ourselves when we start to do these things, like unknowingly or reflexively. It's going to take some practice. And that's okay. That's okay, because once you do become more conditioned to going to imagination, once it becomes habitual to go to imagination and it's second nature, you're never going to have to think about that again. You're never going to have to be like deliberate about that. Yeah. What might it mean when the longest time you've manifested, to use a UK expression, jack shit, then all of a sudden different manifestations start coming one after the other? It's freaky. John, good to have you here, buddy. What does it mean when for the longest time you've been manifesting, not seeing anything, and then all of a sudden everything just comes out of the woodwork? Um, it's called detachment. It's called, once you were no longer like trying to manifest so hard, once you were no longer fixated on the 3D, everything showed up. That's what that means. Yeah, I'm seeing some comments about fears for things not manifesting or things that haven't manifested. Or, this is why, again, we want to focus on two things and two things only. Number one, building faith, like building trust that the law is real and that it works for everything. We can't cherry pick. We can't say, oh, the law works for these things, but not for that. That's not faith. That's not having faith. So we want to work on building that faith and trust. And we also want to work on changing ourself. We want to work on focusing on ourself and how we are thinking, how we are reacting, what we are believing and assuming to be true. So using these imaginal acts to feel better so that we feel better, because it should feel enjoyable. This should feel fun. This should feel relaxing. If it's not, then we are putting way too much effort, and we got to take a step back and just breathe. Because yeah, the when we get so laser focused and fixed on like changing that thing on the outside, this is what usually happens. So I'm glad, Dawn, to see that you're focusing right now on changing that conception of self, because that's literally the ultimate aim here. Yeah. Yeah. No one to change but self. Period. End of story. And on that note, you guys, unfortunately, I do got to get going. Damn it. But thank you so much for being here, everybody. Amazing questions today. Much love to every single one of you. If I didn't get to your question, I am so sorry, but rest assured, I will be here every weekend. Usually Sundays, vast majority of the time on Sunday. Have a wonderful week ahead. Take care of yourselves. Much love. Don't forget how powerful you are. Test the law, you guys. Much love. Bye, y'all.